Yeah, so we are saying we can use the negative integer to access the elements of a given list. And what this negative integer do is actually to exclude the element whose address is represented by the negative integer, or rather that particular integer. So again, we can use the logic vector to access the element of a given list. We can use the logic vector. And how is this? Suppose we want to access only the first element in our list here. We want to access only the first element in our list here. We can use the logic vector, and because it is a vector, we will be using the concatenating function and say for the first element, because actually that is the element we want to retrieve, we will have it as true. The second element will be false. The third element will be false. The third element will be false. The third element will be false. And you realize this is giving us only the first element, excluding the rest. So we can use the logic vector to access the elements of a given uh, list. So suppose we wanted to get the second element, we could have the second logic value as true in order to get the second element. So as well, we can modify the values, or rather the elements of a given list. We can modify the elements. So suppose we want to modify the second element. As you can see, the second element is 1. So we can modify the second element. All you need to know is the name of that list and the address of that element which you want to modify. So of course the name of the list is A, and it's the address of the element we want to modify is 2. So all we need to do is to specify the modification, or rather what you need to have in the second position, or in the second address. And I want it to take the character n, and I want it to take the character n. So when I print A, I'll be having the list having the elements A, n, and 2. And you realize the second element is modified from 1 to n, is modified to n. As well, I can delete the elements of a given list. I can delete an element, or rather the elements of a given list. So suppose I want to delete the second element. How is this? All you need to know is actually the name of the list, and again the address of that element you want to delete. So of course the name is A, and the element I want to delete, let's say it is the third element. It is the third element. So I'll have the name and the address, and then I say null. That is, we don't want to have any element on that position. So when I print A, I'll be having a list of 2 elements, that is A and N. And you realize the third element, which was 2, is deleted from the list. So that is how we create and try to manipulate a list in R. That is how we create and try to manipulate a list in R. So lists are very useful because we will be having elements of different data types that are stored together, and it will be easy to work with such data type because we are executing it as different data types are executed as a component. So suppose we can have more examples, like suppose we have a family. We have a husband and a wife, and this husband and wife has they have some children, and let's say, and these children have age. So we want to store the name of the husband, the name of the wife, the number of children, and the age of each and every child in that particular household. So you realize we can do all this in a list, and say that it will be easy to access and to carry out different analysis of such such data. So suppose I have a list, or we can have this actually, and the name of the list, we can call it data. Let me call it data. The name of the list is data, and of course it's a list. It is having a different data type, so I need to use the list function. So we have a name. This could be the name of the father, and we have the name as Mtulu. We are having the name as Mtulu. So we can, that is the first element of the list. Then we have the elements are separated by a comma. We have the wife. We have the wife here, and of course we need to have the name of the wife. Then we can have the number of children, the number of children, the number of children here, the number of children here. And because we need to have a large data set, let's say 10, let's say 10, and we have child age. So let's say the age of every child in that household. So because they are 10, we can have 28, 26, 23, 21, 17, 14, 12, 10, and 5, and 5. So that is my list, and the list is actually storing those elements. We have the name of the father, the name of the wife, the number of children, at the age of every child in that household. So when I call the data, we will be having the name, that is the name of the father, the name of the wife, the number of children, and the age of every child in that household. So you realize it is easy to manipulate such data type as a component, and despite that it has different data type, it can be executed as a component. And this is enhanced by using lists, and this is enhanced by using lists. So lists are very useful, because if we were to have a scatter plot of this data plot, data here, we can just use a list. We can use the name of the list, that is data, and we manipulate it as a component. So that is all about list. Actually, we are introducing data in a list, and we see how we can actually access the element of list, how we can that is retrieving the elements of a list, how we can modify the elements of a list, how we can delete, and many ways of accessing these elements. So in the next tutorial, we'll be discussing on data frame. How do we create a data frame? How do we access the elements? How do we modify the elements, and all those? Subscribe and wait the next